It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. Have you ever worked on that one project before where you had somebody who was trying to shoehorn an idea down your throat and just make sure they force fed you what needed to be done? Have you had that opportunity where someone who is a subject matter expert? Now, I'll share a story with you because I specifically remember this. There was an organization where I was coaching, and this organization built software that was used by law enforcement officials, specifically in patrol cars. And one of the individuals that was on the team that was considered the subject matter expert, the go to person, had 25 years of law enforcement experience, which I thought was pretty impressive, right? I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, that's a lot of law enforcement experience. But the last time this individual worked on a police force and was in a patrol car, they didn't have laptops in patrol cars. So everyone put all their credence and lent all of their expertise or all of their knowledge of expertise to this individual. And they would ask him, they would say, "Do you think that this is something we should include? Or do you think this is something we should build?" And he would always say, "Well, I can see where that would be valuable. Sure. There's a lot of times where we're building things and doing things." And I was questioning myself and questioning others, saying, does this make sense? And is it what we really should be doing? And the answer I would get is, how do we go against the wisdom of this one individual? Yet, there were others who were on the project who had familiarity, whether it was through relatives, friends, acquaintances, other people who were current law enforcement officers who said, "Well, we don't use half of that crap that's in there. We don't know why that's in there. We don't know why it's built this way," right? And whenever we would say, the persona, are we sure this persona is right? Are we sure? Well, first of all, I asked if we even had a persona, and the answer was we did. But the persona was built very much after this subject matter expert, right? It was like you took the subject matter expert and transitioned that person into a persona. And I said, but what about this other persona, right? And I said, but couldn't there be another persona of someone who's on a modern day workforce that does these things and does this? And I said, we can put this person together, and we can have an alternate persona, right? And people were quick to look at me and say, "Shh, we don't talk about Bruno." Little Encanto reference there. And it's interesting because I was posting a poll on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, and I asked a question: which Disney princess best represents your agile implementation? It was a cheesy poll, I know, but it was fun because I wanted to see what people said, and I got some really cool, insightful answers. One person said Tiana because she's the hardest working waitress that dreams of bigger things and was hard headed with focus and drive to accomplish them. I love it. Another one was Moana. She tames the fire for her people. Another one went way deep and outside the box, said Goldilocks. Never too hard, never too soft, but just right. But I think the number one answer I got, the one that I enjoyed the most, was Mirabelle from Encanto. She's a free spirit, always trying to help, and she's quite the problem solver. And the more I thought about it, I said, wow, I said, that's a great answer. So, of course, we started a thread back and forth. And my joke, of course, right out of the gate is, what about Bruno? Should we talk about him? And of course, the reply I got was, shh, we don't talk about Bruno. But here's where it went. There was a reply later that said, quote, "I would talk about Bruno, though. That guy had a vision about the product. He understood project failure, but the team never took the time to consider him or his opinion." Wait, what? Did you hear what I just never? That is brilliant. Now, I don't know if this young lady wants me to use her name, but you can go back and figure out who it is. But holy cow, my mind exploded when I read that. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Talk about mind blown. This was one of those moments where I realized how much I knew, yet how little I knew, because the way that she just tied Bruno from Encanto into that person, the person with the vision about exactly where we need to go and a strategy of how to get there, but no one wants to listen to that person because they're not the expert, quote unquote. that one person on a team who has brilliant ideas that every time they recommend them, someone quickly shoots them down because they're afraid that that person's ideas might overrule their own. I hate to say it, but every organization has a Bruno. And I think it's time for us to start talking about Bruno. So, my question to you is, who's the Bruno in your organization? Who's the person who knows a lot about your product or service more than you think they do? And how and where and when are we going to engage that individual? Because I can tell you right now firsthand, I think it's high time that we do talk about Bruno. So I'm going to leave it at there so that you can let it absorb and let it sink in and see where we take it. Right? I mean, there's a lot of different ways, a lot of different directions we could take this, but I want to let it sit and simmer a little bit. So I hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and if you have an episode or something you'd like to talk about, even if it's Bruno, feel free to reach out to us at learnmore@agiledad.com. We'd love to hear more about topics you want to talk about. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.